Good evening, everyone, and here I am, Sharice Moore with his Truth Be Told Ministries, coming on with you to do our weekly check-in in our memorization group. Hi all, hope all is going well with you. I'm here for two reasons. One, to check in and do our weekly check-in, but for the second part is also to give you your memory tip. Now, while I was preparing, one time, maybe a couple of weeks ago, preparing my scripture swap, verses for another group that I send out scriptures, and I do it similarly to what I do for my own verse. And this is my verse card that I prepared for myself with my memorization, sitting right here. My verse card, I don't think you see it. And I'm holding the camera today because it would not allow me to do a selfie and then flip it for some reason. So I had to do it this way. So it's a little jumpy. Hopefully you can see it. But here's my memory card that I made, and I'm learning 1 Peter 3:9 and 10. And so I thought I'd work with 1 Peter 3:9 with you today and just tell you the process. And so while doing my scripture swap verse for someone else that I was sending out, and I'm sorry I don't have an example of that because I already mailed it, but I made the verse example would be, I wrote out, what you do is take a piece of paper, cardstock, or whatever you're working with, and I'm going to use paper today, and write out the verse on, like I did here, for a little phrase form. And then I spaced it when I did this. And then I took my cutter and I cut it. And it ended up being into these strips. Do you see these strips? And so I shuffled them up. And I did shuffle them up, although it may not look like I did, but I did. And I shuffled them up. And what you're going to do is you're going to put them in order. And I found that out by doing that verse for someone else. I was doing a random verse that I was using for them, that I had to put the strips in order to glue them down. And I realized that I was actually learning the verse inadvertently. It wasn't my plan. I was really preparing something for someone else. And I said that would be a great way to memorize scripture, especially for those of us who are visual learners and tactile learners, who need to touch and feel and engage in order to learn. So, for example, you would make the strips, cut them out, and I have my memory card, as I showed you, it was sitting right here. I'm going to turn it face down. See on my desk, I'm turning it face down. Look at that. Turning it face, I can't see it. And so I'm going to work on my memory verse. So what you would do, and it looks so funny when you're doing it holding your camera, I'm telling you, y'all, it's a hoot. So it's kind of hard to hold your hand. You would go and you say, not returning evil for evil. And then you look through your strips and trying to put it in order. Or insult for insult. That's how the verse is for me. Insult for insult. It's kind of hard to put it in order when you're holding the camera, I'm going to tell y'all. Okay, that's part of my verse. I know that, and I'm trying to do this with my, with my left hand. Okay, so I gotta work through. I'm looking. I don't want to knock them off the page, so I'm gonna move just a little bit, and hopefully it will not blur too much. Hope y'all can blur, because I gotta work with my right hand, y'all. I'm right-handed, so it's kind of hard to do that. So here we are. It says, "You not returning evil for evil or insult for insult." Okay. But giving a blessing instead. Yeah. For you have been, I think that's how the verse goes. For you have been called, For you have been called. And whoa, I looked there and realized. Okay. All right, so but listen, I'm looking at it. See, I'm working right along with this verse, but giving a blessing instead. So it says, not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but giving a blessing instead. So, okay, so, right. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, that doesn't make sense, right? So there's something missing. And while looking at that, I can tell there's something missing. So not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but giving a blessing instead. For you were called for this purpose. And I know that because I've memorized the verse. That you might inherit a blessing. So now either I'm thinking I'm missing one. Excuse me, y'all. Let me see if I can find it. I'm glad y'all bearing with me to do this. I think it's fun to do this. So I'm missing something. When you're looking through a camera trying to do this, it's a hoot. Okay, let's see if I can. There it is. Okay. I was missing the strip because I'm like, that doesn't make sense. not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but giving a blessing instead. For you were called, and let me move this here. I'm glad you all are bearing with me. Now let me straighten it up. So what I'm going to do is switch hands again. I'm sorry, you all. I could use a camera thing with this, but it would have been just too much time to pull it out and try to do it. And unfortunately, my husband is not here to help me, right? He could have held the camera for me or my grandson, but they're all gone. And I wanted to do this. I didn't want another day to go by before I got busy in my week. So there it is. Can you all see it? It says, not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but giving a blessing instead. For you were called for the very purpose that you might inherit a blessing. 1 Peter 3:9. Now that's what I believe the verse says. So I'm practicing my verse, y'all. So let's turn it over and see if I was accurate in my verse. So there's my verse when I put together with the strips. And I scroll over here. Not returning evil for evil, or insult for insult, but giving a blessing instead. For you were called for that very purpose, that you might inherit a blessing. 1 Peter 3:9. There I go. So I have learned the verse because I recognized immediately that something was missing, as I said. And this helps us work on it. So what I will do is put this in an envelope along when I do verse 10 as well, and put them in an envelope, shake them up, and periodically I will practice putting the verse together. This is such an easy way to practice your verse, to practice memorizing your verse. And if you save it, you can actually do it, one day just randomly. If you start saving your verses like this, the ones that you're going to be memorizing as we go forward, you can keep the envelope and have various envelopes that have different, say that these two I put in one is April and I do another one in May, and have a few of them that I've done in the past and put little strips. It doesn't take any time to cut up these strips and write it out. Save them in small envelopes, put them to the side, and one day just, and when you're doing your review week or whatever, or review at the end of the week, break them out and see if you can put them together and practice your verse. This is a great way to memorize scripture. I appreciate your time and you looking at the video, and hopefully this will help you. Now, if you have a memory tip or something that you do that helps you memorize scripture, will you share it with us? Send me an email at htbtbiblefellows@gmail.com and say, I've got a great memory tip. Share your tip, and you know what? You might get featured here in our group one day. Thanks so much. You all have a blessed week. Bye.